Today, we're ranking the 25 most dangerous places on planet Earth. As you can see, our tiers range from super dead all the way to not dead, so let's jump into it. Our first deadly place is Snake Island in Brazil. So this is a 106-acre rock off the coast of Brazil that serves as an exclusive home for the golden lancehead viper. Now, evolution has isolated these vipers so that they don't have any natural ground predators, which has allowed their venom to become 5 times more potent than their mainland counterparts, okay? So they can kill birds instantly, so they can't even fly away, right? Now, the venom causes systematic organ failure and can literally dissolve human muscles upon contact, which is not good. Okay, that sounds pretty deadly to me. There are around 2,000 to 4,000 vipers on this tiny island, so that's like basically a viper every square meter, which means you're basically always near one. Now, the last lighthouse keeper and his family reportedly died after snakes entered through their windows, and the lighthouse is now fully automatic. Okay, the Navy hasn't allowed anybody on this island in since the 1920s. So I'm gonna say, I could probably outrun a snake, but since there's so many of them, I'm gonna say we're pretty dead. Okay, it doesn't sound like the most deadly environment because you have to get bit by a snake. Maybe you could hold up in a tree or a shack or something. There's potential to not die immediately, so we'll put it at pretty dead. Maybe we'll change that later. Next up, we have the Danakil Depression in Ethiopia. Okay, located at the junction of 3 tectonic plates. All right, that's not sounding good already. This is a geological hellscape, basically, where the Earth's crust is stretching and thinning, and this means that there's constant volcanic activity, right? So there's geysers that spit acid, and the landscape is saturated with toxic sulfur and salt vapors. Now, it's one of the very few places on Earth where a lava lake remains permanently in motion and active. So there's a fucking lava lake in the middle of Ethiopia. Now, the Dalal hydrothermal fields produce pools of water with a pH of less than 1, meaning they are incredibly acidic, right? And the temperature is near boiling of these little lakes. Now, even the microorganisms found here are extremophiles, meaning that they have to survive in these insane conditions. Now, I'm gonna say we're not dead here, okay? All we have to do, right, is not fall in any lava and not jump in any pools of incredibly acidic boiling water. That sounds pretty easy to me, okay? Just don't slip and fall and you're fine. Now, will there be anything to eat or anything like that? I don't know, probably not, but I think we can live there, at least for a little while. Next up, we have Mount Washington, USA. What? Mount Washington in the United States? That seems like out of left field, but why is this place so dangerous? Well, its elevation is 6,288 feet, which is honestly not that high, but its positioning creates a funnel effect, right? There are 3 major storm tracks coming from the Atlantic, the South, and the Pacific Northwest. This creates hurricane force winds, okay? Hurricane force winds and erratic lethal weather patterns that can strike at any moment, okay? Which is just insane. Basically, at any moment, you're going to get fucking obliterated by a snowstorm. So it holds the record for the highest wind speed ever measured by a human observer at 231 miles an hour, okay, bro? I feel like I'm going to get blown over in 20-mile-an-hour winds. So 231 is insane, okay? It's hard to even understand just how fast that is. The summit experiences hurricane force winds on average of 110 days per year, but 110 days per year does mean there is a chance of survival. I'm going to say only kind of dead on this one, okay? The combination of the wind and moisture creates rime ice, which can coat structures in feet of heavy jagged ice in a single night. So basically, we need some quick shelter or we will get obliterated, covered in thick sheets of ice. However, all we have to do is not show up on one of those 110 days, and I think we'll be all right. You know what I'm saying? So, next up, number 4, we have Lake Natron in Tanzania, all right? This shallow salt lake is fed by mineral-rich hot springs, resulting in water that is highly alkaline. So that's the opposite of the super acidic lakes in Ethiopia. These are very basic, meaning they have a pH of 10.5 to 12, all right? The high concentration of sodium carbonate decahydrate makes the water feel viscous and soapy. That doesn't sound too bad. Okay, you get clean here, right? and it's caustic enough to strip the skin and fur off of unadapted animals. Nice. All right, so if we fall in the water, our skin will literally be ripped from our flesh. That sounds lovely. The water temperature can reach a staggering 140 degrees Fahrenheit, okay? And only the lesser flamingo thrives here. So there is food, all right? There is food. All we have to do is catch a flamingo out of water and kill it, and we'll have something to eat, and then we don't have to fall in the water, right? So I'm going to say this is maybe even better than the Ethiopian lake. I'm going to say this is barely dead with the Ethiopian lake, and this is not dead at all. I think we could survive here. Just don't get in the water, okay? And catch a flamingo or two to eat. Sounds pretty simple. Next up, we have Oyomayakan in Russia. Okay, I definitely did not say that right. So a village in Siberia. Okay, people live there. So I'm immediately putting it in not dead. Okay, people live there. It's a village situated in Siberia between two mountain ranges that trap cold air in a permanent valley. All right, so the temperature inversion creates an environment where the air is so cold it hurts to breathe. Okay, I've been in plenty of situations where it hurts to breathe, so that's nothing new for me. What do I mean by that? You can figure it out. And metal becomes brittle enough to snap like glass. That's nice. It's the only place in the world where schools remain open until the temperature hits negative 62 degrees Fahrenheit, bro. We closed school yesterday and it was like, I think 30 degrees here in Texas, okay? So that's just insane. Digging a grave can take 3 days as the ground must be thawed with a bonfire for hours before a few inches of dirt can be removed. But frankly, I think this one alone has made me go ahead and knock everything up a tier, right? Because if this one is deadly, like a dangerous place, but people live there, it can't possibly be that bad. So I think everything needs to move up a tier. Next up, we have Death Valley in the United States. All right, everyone's heard of this one. So a small sunken block of Earth's crust that sits nearly 300 feet below sea level is surrounded by steep mountain ranges, and these mountains trap heat in the valley floor, all right? Creating a convection oven effect where air is heated, rises, and is forced back down to be heated even further. Basically, you're stuck in an oven 24/7, okay? But people run races here and shit. I know people have like run marathons through Death Valley, right? So the fact that in 2020 and 2021, it recorded reliable temperatures at 130 degrees Fahrenheit, some of the highest ever verified, it's really not that big of a deal, okay? People are running marathons through here. The Badwater Basin is a vast salt flat where the salt crust is several feet thick, left behind by a lake that evaporated 10,000 years ago. Well, when we're hitting the temperatures of 130 Fahrenheit, you can see why the lake evaporated. Humidity is often below 10%, meaning that sweat evaporates so quickly that you don't realize you are dehydrating until it's too late. Well, I'm going to say that this is probably barely dead, okay? If you had enough water, you could live here for a long time. It would fucking suck, but you could do it, all right? Next up, we have Skeleton Coast in Namibia. All right, now what's up with the Skeleton Coast? I've literally never heard of this place in my entire life. So it's a 500-kilometer stretch of coastline where the frigid Benguela Current meets the hot air of the Namib Desert. This creates a permanent dense fog and treacherous surf-beating waves that allow ships to come in, but made it impossible for them to ever sail out. So I guess the waves carry you in, but then when you try to leave on your boat, you can't because the waves constantly push you back, and the fog is so thick it's probably impossible to navigate. So it is named not just for shipwrecks, but for the thousands of beached whales and seal skeletons left by the whaling industry. Isn't that lovely? You basically get to go to Whale Graveyard and hang out there for all eternity. The shipwreck survivors who made it to shore were often greeted by hundreds of miles of waterless desert, leading to certain death, okay? Despite the desolation, it supports desert lions that have learned to hunt seals and cormorants. I don't know what that is, okay? Anyway, listen. So basically, you're telling me we sail in on a ship, we shipwreck, we can't possibly leave, we're on a desert, and there are desert lions that will hunt us for sport. Okay, this one truly sounds pretty dire. I'm gonna say we're super dead here. I think we could maybe even drop Viper Island up to super dead. We can raise it up to super dead because frankly, I don't like my chances there either, but the idea of being trapped in a place with desert lions in thick fog, it sounds like an absolute hellscape. I can't think of things anywhere much worse than that, frankly. Okay. So let's go ahead and drop. I think this is a pretty good list so far. I think this is solid. Next up, we have the death zone on Mount Everest in Nepal/China. Lovely. It's called the death zone. I'm sure we can survive there, right? So the altitude is above 8,000 meters, where the partial pressure of oxygen is so low that the human body can no longer replenish its oxygen supply. Okay, that's just lovely. Now, let's see here. At this height, the body begins to die cell by cell, and cognitive function basically deteriorates rapidly. That's lovely. So you start to just like become really dumb really fast and die. That's awesome. Humans can only survive for about 12 to 24 hours in the death zone before the lungs or brain begin to swell with fluid. Bodies of fallen climbers are rarely recovered due to the extreme risk and the resources required. You die up here and you stay frozen there for all eternity, right? They're basically like horrible dead trail markers, which is really kind of fucked up if you think about it. There's just a bunch of dead bodies that tell you where to go on Mount Everest, or I guess maybe where not to go. But at the summit, you are breathing in only 1/3 of the oxygen you would have at sea level. So this is basically super dead. There is zero, and I mean zero chance. In fact, this is so bad that I think we have to drop desert coastline lion hunting ground lower, because on Mount Everest at this elevation, you just will die. You are super dead. There is nothing you can do unless you can get off of the mountain in time and out of that zone. But honestly, good luck with that, okay? Next up, we have Lake Nyos in Cameroon. So this is a Mar Lake, a flooded volcanic crater, basically. It's unusually deep and still, which allows carbon dioxide from the magma below to dissolve into the bottom layers of the water under immense pressure, essentially turning the lake into a giant unstable bottle of soda. That's awesome. I love soda. I have one right here, okay? My zero sugar Dr. Pepper. Now, fact one. In 1986, a landslide triggered a limnic eruption, releasing 1.6 million tons of CO2 that flowed into the valley, suffocating everything within 15 miles, bro. Can you imagine a landslide triggering a mass suffocation event? That is horrifying, okay? It's a miracle humans are even alive at all. Next up, because CO2 is heavier than air, victims died in their sleep as the gas hugged the ground, displacing all oxygen. That's lovely. The lake turned a deep iron red after the eruption as iron-rich water from the bottom was brought to the surface and oxidized. Okay, what are our chances of surviving here? Now, I actually think we're only kind of dead. This is striking me as middle of the pack here. Now, I say that because I am a privileged 6'3" tall man, so I would be well above the carbon dioxide, I think. I think I'm living, okay? I can climb a tree or something. I don't think it would be that bad. I think there's real potential we survive this one, okay? We can maybe even drop it down to kind of dead, but I feel like the Ethiopian volcanic lake is slightly less scary than the CO2 kill you really fast lake. You know, it's so awesome we have all these things on the planet. Next up, we have the Darien Gap in the Panama/Colombia. So it's a 60-mile wide swath of lawless mountainous jungle and swamp that remains the only missing link in the Pan-American Highway. It is impenetrable because of the thick vegetation, venomous insects, and predatory cartels that use the lack of infrastructure to hide their operations, okay? So there's no roads. Travel is done via dangerous river crossings or grueling multi-day hikes through knee-deep mud. Lovely. Okay, 75% of Americans cannot run a mile straight. And you're going to tell me that you expect us to hike through knee-deep mud. Now, I, on the other hand, run consistently, so I think my odds are a little better than your average person. Now, it is a primary territory of the, I can't say that, but a self-defense force, a powerful paramilitary group or cartel, okay? It's the Jihadist Self-Defense Force, okay? We don't want to fuck with the cartel. I gotta be real. I don't want to fuck with the cartel. The bullet ant is also found here, and if you've ever watched that video of the tribe of people who put the bullet ant mittens on, okay, it's absolute fucking torture to get bit by one of those. So, would the cartel surely kidnap me and hold me for ransom? Absolutely. But no, I'm just kidding. We're dead, okay? We're probably pretty dead, okay? We're at least kind of dead. I'm gonna put us in very dead, frankly. You don't fuck with the cartel. I think we all understand that. Next up, we have North Sentinel Island, which I'm sure many of you have heard of, okay? It's a pretty famous island. It is a small forested island in the Andaman chain, inhabited by the Sentinelese. So they're often one of the last uncontacted people on Earth, and they've been surviving there for 60,000 years by meeting any outside approach with lethal force, which is just lovely, okay? So essentially, you have a small island isolated in India that a bunch of people have lived on for a really long time and attack anybody who gets close. Now, the Indian government has established a 5-mile exclusion zone around the island to protect both the tribe and anyone else from getting near, okay? So if you go there, you might bring a modern disease to these people and kill all of them, and if you go near, they might just kill you. So it's best for everybody to just stay away from one another. Following the 2004 tsunami, the tribe survived by moving to high ground and even fired arrows at helicopters checking for survivors. So that's pretty sick of them. And in 2019, an American missionary, this is why this island is so famous, he went there and he was likely killed by the tribe. No, he definitely was killed. Sorry, I think there was another guy who went there and was only maybe killed, but one guy was definitely killed. So listen, we're super dead, okay? It's another instance where you show up and you're just getting killed. It's kind of like the cartel, but there's a chance you can evade the cartel. I think there's almost zero chance that we evade the Sentinelese people, as they'll see us approach and then just fucking ice me with an arrow. So next up, we have Bikini Atoll, like Bikini Bottom in SpongeBob. Surely it can't be that dangerous. It's a ring of coral islands that served as the primary nuclear testing ground for the US Cold War program. While the islands look like a tropical paradise, the soil, vegetation, and other stuff on the island contain high levels of cesium-137, which remains radioactive for centuries. Isn't that lovely how we have an island, a whole island with our nuclear testing? The Castle Bravo test in 1954 created a crater 2,000 meters wide and 75 meters deep. While the air is relatively safe for short visits, the entire food chain from the coconuts to the crabs is still lethally radioactive. That is insane. The radiation levels are actually higher than those currently found in Chernobyl. Higher than Chernobyl. That is ridiculous. Okay, radiation is not something you can fucking mess around with, so we're super dead again. That's another super deadly place to go. Do not go there. Okay, you heard it here first, guys. Do not go to Bikini Atoll. Next up, we have Fraser Island, okay? This is in Australia. It is the largest sand island in the world, featuring a perched lake and ancient rainforest growing out of sand dunes. However, its isolation has created a trap, so to speak, where the local dingo population is extremely aggressive, okay? You're going to get eaten by the dingoes, and the surrounding waters are a crossroad for multiple apex predators. Isn't that lovely? Dingo Island, basically. The 75-mile beach serves as a highway, but it is plagued by invisible washouts and quicksand that can trap four-wheel drive vehicles in seconds. So basically, you drive on the island, you get trapped, and then you get eaten by dingoes. Lovely. Swimming in the ocean is strictly forbidden due to permanent populations of great white sharks and deadly box jellyfish. Okay, this place is getting worse and worse by the second. The dingoes here are considered the most genetically pure in Australia, but they have lost their fear of humans and frequently attack tourists. Okay. So basically, Quicksand Island, covered in dingoes that love to eat people, and great white sharks and jellyfish inhabit the waters. I'm just gonna say we're very dead, dog. There ain't no chance we might be able to live for a little bit, but there's no chance we're getting off the island. We're super cooked. All right, next up we have Mount Sinabung in Indonesia. Okay, so it's a massive stratovolcano on Sumatra that woke up in 2010 after 400 years of silence. All right. Since then, it has been in a state of nearly constant, violent eruption, making it one of the most volatile and active hazards on the planet. That's lovely. It produces pyroclastic density currents. I have no idea what that means, but apparently it's a mixture of hot gas and volcanic matter that reach temperatures of 1,300 degrees Fahrenheit. Just a hot, that's normal for Texas, you know, it's just another hot day to me, so I don't think that's too bad. These flows move at speeds exceeding 100 miles an hour, making them impossible to outrun or survive. The red zone around the volcano contains dozens of abandoned ghost villages that were buried in ash and abandoned overnight. Okay, listen, if you drop anybody in the middle of a 1,300 degree volcano, they will die. Assuming we're not there, I think we're still we're super dead, dog. Okay, these lava flows are moving at 100 miles an hour. How could you possibly escape? How could you possibly escape? You have no shot, okay? You might as well just shoot me with a bow and arrow like the Sentinelese would. Next up, it'd probably be faster, okay? Next up, we have the Sahel Desert. Desert? Is it a desert? The Sahel in Africa, okay? It's a semi-arid belt of land stretching across Africa. So it goes from the Atlantic to the Red Sea. It is the front line of the climate change, apparently, where the Sahara Desert is expanding southward. So basically, it's the front lines of the Sahara Desert's movement as it slowly grows due to climate change. It has created a permanent state of famine, resource, and war. In the last 50 years, the Sahel has seen some of the most drastic rainfall decreases on the planet. Desertification is claiming land at a rate of several miles per year in some regions, and dust storms known as haboobs can be miles high and block out the sun for days, causing massive respiratory issues. So basically, you get suffocated by a giant boob, and that sounds pretty rough. Now, there are probably people somewhat living here, so I'm going to say only pretty dead. I think this one is only kind of dead, okay? I think this is not nearly as bad as some of these other things on the list. Okay, next up, we have Valley of Death. I didn't know there was a second one. This one is in Russia. So it's located near the Kikipinchi volcano. I think I said that right. This is a small valley. It is a natural gas trap, okay, just like your mom, because the valley is sheltered from wind, heavy volcanic gases like hydrogen sulfide, and carbon disulfide, settling on the floor, creating a literal death zone. Okay, that's awesome. We love literal death zones, bro. So basically, a bunch of heavy volcanic gases, they're so heavy that they are heavier than oxygen in the atmosphere. And so they settle at the bottom of this valley, creating a zone of unbreathable air. Animals that enter to drink or forage are dead within minutes. Their carcasses then attract larger predators like bears, who also die. So basically, you have a carnival-like train of a little mouse goes in, then a little fox goes in to eat the mouse, and then a bear goes in, and they're all dead within minutes. Isn't that lovely? The gases prevent the bacteria from decay. Oh, the bacteria of decay from working quickly, meaning carcasses often look strangely preserved for weeks. And scientists must wear heavy-duty respirators and specialized sensors just to enter the valley for a few minutes of study. Listen. If you gotta wear a respirator to even live in the area, frankly, we are super dead. I think there's almost no shot I could survive here. I mean, what are you gonna do? Hold your breath for like 2 minutes and then kill over and die? And then you'll be perfectly preserved. And maybe you could like die like in this position, so you could, you know, people would be like, oh, look, that guy's waving to us. He needs help. And then they'll go in and then they'll die. And you'll basically be like a giant totem attracting people to their death, which would be kind of cool if you really think about it, right? All right, next up, we have the Mailu Su in Kyrgyzstan. So it's a mountainous mining town that was the site of the USSR's most intensive uranium mining. Okay, radiation not looking good, Yang, not looking good. So when the mines closed, they left behind 23 tailing piles of radioactive waste on unstable hillsides above a river that provides water for millions in the Ferganan Valley. Nice, okay? We're just leaving piles of radioactive shit above rivers that everybody drinks from. Seems like nothing could go wrong there, if you ask me. The area is extremely prone to seismic activity and landslides, which could dump the waste into the river at any time. So the USSR thought it would be a good idea to mine uranium, pile it up next to the river that everybody drinks from, in an area that's also highly, highly seismic and will constantly have landslides. That's just like genius, bro. I've never heard of a better idea. Okay. Residents have significantly higher rates of thyroid cancer and birth defects. I mean, listen, radiation is just bad stuff. Okay. It's considered a ticking time bomb in Central Asia. And I mean, listen, somebody's got to do something about that. Okay. Not me. I'm not volunteering. Okay. But somebody's got to do something about that. However, we're probably just like not really dead. Okay, there's plenty of people living in the area and drinking from this place, and while they have cancer way more often, cancer normally takes years to kill you, so we're not gonna die immediately. It's not nearly as lethal as nearly everything else on this list. However, the ticking time bomb scenario is fucking crazy. All right, next up we have Dalal in Ethiopia. Okay, man, Ethiopia is just not a place you should go, apparently. Not only is this one of the hottest places on Earth, but the ground itself is a chemical hazard. That's sick. Magma heats groundwater that dissolves salts and minerals, which then erupt onto the surface, creating a neon-colored crust of salt, potash, and acidic brine. Okay, as you can see here, it's quite pretty at the very least. The lakes here are, and I say lakes in quotations, are actually pools of liquid acid and boiling toxic brine, okay? So don't get in the lake. It has a recorded average daily maximum temperature of 106 Fahrenheit. Okay, I know that sounds bad. I have experienced 106-degree heat here in Texas, and while it is fucking miserable and you cannot stay out there for a super long time, it's not going to kill you instantly, right? It's not like you're getting vaporized by the sun. The sulfurous vapors are so concentrated that they can cause permanent lung damage without a gas mask. Okay, well, I haven't dealt with that in Texas, to be fair. So I'm going to say we're very dead. It sounds like we would probably die pretty fast, similar to being eaten by a dingo or something, but we could probably walk around, avoid the boiling water, and maybe get out. There's a sliver that we, like, sliver of a chance that we could survive. Okay. Next up, we have Mount Merapi, okay, in Indonesia. So this is a place that's name literally translates to Mountain of Fire. It is the most active of Indonesia's 130 volcanoes, and what makes it so dangerous is its proximity to the city of Yogyakarta. Over 2.4 million people live there and are in the immediate kill zone, okay? So basically, the moment this thing erupts, 2.4 million people are probably, I stop the planet. That's horrifying. It's horrifying to think about. Why did so many people set up villages next to volcanoes? Okay, it's a really important question I think we should be asking more often. Now, it is a decade volcano, meaning it is studied intensely because of its history of large destructive eruptions near populated areas. And it produces a unique thick lava that forms domes, which eventually collapse and send pyroclastic flows down the mountainside. So there are local spiritual guardians that used to live in the slopes to perform rituals to appease the mountain. And the most famous was killed in an eruption in 2010. So it appears rituals are not keeping this thing at bay. However, not dead. Okay, there are currently 2.4 million people living in the vicinity of this volcano, and they are alive. So if we go there, not dead instantly, we just have to pray to the mountain god that we don't get iced immediately, or I guess fired immediately, right? Next up, we have the Atacama Desert, which is in Chile, okay? Or Chile, I don't know which one. A high-altitude plateau where some areas have gone for 400 years without significant rainfall, bro. That's insane. 400 years? The air is so dry that organic matter does not rot, it simply mummifies. It is a hyper-arid environment that is closer to the surface of Mars than it is to most of Earth. That is sick. I would love to go there for like an afternoon for fun, just to like check it out. The soil is completely devoid of nitrogen-fixing bacteria, making it nearly sterile. It is the primary site of the world's most powerful telescopes due to the 300-plus nights of cloudless dry air. Wow, that is really awesome. I would love to go there. New mission for the channel, baby. Let's go to the Atacama Desert in Chile. Okay? In some spots, fog nets are the only way locals get water, literally combining moisture out of the morning mist. Okay, so people who live there, there's telescopes there. It's not that bad of a place. Probably the least lethal place on this list because so many people live there, it seems like. Well, maybe this volcano, but they're not in imminent danger like the volcano people are, so I think that's fine. Next up, we have the Bermuda Triangle in the Atlantic Ocean. Okay, that's kind of surprising. I really didn't expect that to be on the list. Okay, everybody knows what this is, right? It is a region defined by the points of Miami, Bermuda, and Puerto Rico. While often dismissed as a myth, the area is naturally dangerous due to the Gulf Stream, a swift, violent current, frequent tropical storms, and methane hydrates on the seafloor that can suddenly reduce water density. The Gulf Stream is so powerful it can quickly erase all evidence of a disaster or wreckage, and it is one of the few places where hexagonal clouds create air bombs with... What the fuck is an air bomb? I don't know what that means, okay? Listen, I got my notes together. I wrote that down. I have no idea what a hexagonal cloud or an air bomb is. So if you know what that is, please tell me in the comments, okay? But they create 170-mile-an-hour winds, which can flip ships. Now, the underwater topography ranges from shallow reefs to some of the deepest trenches in the world at over 28,000 feet. So, listen, We all read the books in school about the Bermuda Triangle and we're told not to go there. It's very bad, very dangerous place. Don't go there, okay? You'll disappear and no one will ever hear from you again and an alien will come and probe you. But, I mean, people gotta sail through there all the time. I'm gonna say it's barely dead. You're at more imminent danger than the volcano and stuff because, like, stuff is actively going on. Like, the Gulf Stream is always there. However, it's not like... I think we're barely dead, okay? We're almost to the end of our list here, and... what a perfect way to move on from like the scary water to the scary place called the Gates of Hell in Turkmenistan, okay? A drilling rig collapsed into a 70-meter wide methane-filled cavern in the Karakum Desert. To prevent the gas from poisoning nearby towns, good idea, Soviet scientists set it on fire, okay? It has been burning with a roar that sounds like a jet engine ever since. So when was this? Soviet scientists, so during the USSR era, okay, they set a cave full of methane on fire and it's still burning to this day. That is insane. The ground around the crater is unstable and constantly crumbling. The heat at the edge is enough to melt shoes. Bro, you're getting your shoes melted into the earth as you slip into the fiery gates of hell. That's awesome. In 2013, an explorer became the first person to descend to the bottom, finding unique bacteria that thrive in the extreme heat. A person went to the bottom. That is important for our tier list. The government has periodically announced plans to extinguish it, to reclaim the gas, but they have failed every time. That makes sense to me. I'm going to say only kind of dead, okay? As long as we don't fall in the actual burning pit in the gates of hell, I think we'll be okay. There's a guy who went to the bottom. I'm sure he was suited up in all kinds of shit, or maybe they put him in a, I don't know, insulated box or something. But people have gone to the bottom. As long as you don't get near the edge, your shoes won't melt. I think it's not that bad, but it's certainly pretty deadly, okay? It feels kind of like the Ethiopian lake to me. All right, next up, Mount Rainier in the United States, okay? Unlike Everest, Rainier's danger is in its lahar potential. It holds more glacial ice than all other Cascade volcanoes combined. If it erupts, the heat will instantly melt this ice, creating a wall of mud, rocks, and debris hundreds of feet high, moving at 50 miles an hour. But listen, okay, this was really scary. I think a couple years back, people were worried it was going to erupt. It was showing a lot of activity. But listen, while the lahars have reached as far as the Puget Sound in the Seattle area, that was in the past. You know, there's a permanent warning system on this thing. The valleys below have at least 45 minutes to evacuate. Okay, it's considered one of the 16 decade volcanoes globally that pose the greatest threat to human life. But just like this one right here, okay, not that bad. As long as it doesn't erupt, we're chilling, so not dead. Next up, the Amazon rainforest. Everybody knows this one, okay? The Amazon rainforest is the ultimate biological arms race on the planet, okay? Because the environment is so competitive, plants and animals have evolved for extreme defense. From the Gimpy Gimpy plant, which if you have ever heard of that, it's like a tree that you touch it and it makes you feel like you're dying, okay? It stings you so bad it feels like you're being burned alive by acid. And the black caiman, which is a snake. Everything is built to kill or defend itself. So the Amazon rainforest is just an awful place. It has the most venomous spider in the world. Bullet ants live there. There's a boiling river with a 4-mile stretch of water heated by geothermal energy to nearly 100 degrees Celsius. Anything that falls in is cooked alive. The Candiru fish, though largely a myth, represents the real dangers of parasites that can enter the human body through various orifices. So listen, bro, you don't want to be in the Amazon rainforest. However, on our list of god-awful places to be, frankly, I think it's kind of low on the list. I think it's maybe kind of dead. I think plenty of people live, travel, and exist in the Amazon rainforest, so only kind of dead. I would say barely dead, actually. I don't think it's that bad. And finally, our last item on the list, Lake Kivu in Rwanda or the DRC. One of the African Great Lakes, Kivu is sitting on a volcanic rift that is slowly pulling apart. This causes huge amounts of methane and CO2 to be trapped in its deep, stratified layers. If an earthquake or eruption triggers the lake, it would release a gas bomb, basically, that could kill millions of people. So the earthquake would happen and all that gas would be released from the lake and kill everyone in the surrounding area. It contains an estimated 65 cubic kilometers of methane and 256 cubic kilometers of carbon dioxide. That is an unreal amount of gas. It's hard to even imagine, okay? It is one of only 3 exploding lakes in the world, along with Neos and Monoon. I have no idea what those places are, but to mitigate the risk, the Kivu Wat project actively sucks the methane out of the water to power Rwanda's national electrical grid. Okay, so not that bad. They're even using the ticking time bomb lake to make electricity, so it can't possibly be that bad. Not dead, similar to the other things on this list, where really some horrible event would have to take place for it to really kill you. All right, so here's our list. At the top, let's run through the top real quick. We have the death zone in Mount Everest. Basically, you can't survive for more than 12 to 24 hours. You're super cooked. Then we have, next up, we have the Sentinelese Island. I can't remember what it's called. North Sentinel Island, that's right, where they'll just shoot you on sight, basically, not with guns, but with bows and arrows. Then we have Bikini Atoll, the immensely radioactive testing site for the United States nuclear weapons program. After that, we have, I don't remember what this one is, frankly, by the picture alone, but I know the next one, okay, and it is the Valley of Death in Russia, which is just awful. It's so terribly poisonous. The air is so terribly poisonous. You walk in, you die in minutes, and then you get mummified, basically, because the bacteria that would rot you away can't even form, okay? Can't even live there. There you go. That is our final list. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this tier list. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I love you. I'll see you in the next one.